Semco Maritime Sustainability Webinar 2022. It is our pleasure seeing you all. During the next hour, we have an exciting program on the agenda: sustainability as a shared responsibility across countries and value chains. We believe in partnerships and joint forces to meet the targets of reducing CO2 emissions. And as a key supplier, you have an important role to play. Let me briefly introduce the speakers of today. I just need control, Irene. Can you swap the pages for me? The next page, please. All right. So my name is Dina. I am part of our Global Sourcing Excellence team, and I will be the host today. Coming up, we have Thomas Naubøl-Meilgaard, our Senior Vice President of Brand and People and Marketing. Sustainability, of course. He will be presenting Semco Maritime's overall strategy on sustainability. And next up, we have Richard Bowen, our Director, Head of Supply Chain, who will be providing insight into how we go through the supply chain, of course, within this sustainability journey. Jonathan Ross, our Sustainability Advisor, will be sharing information and tangible ways of how to actually measure Scope 1 and 2. Luckily, we have two guest speakers today. So please welcome Leo Conradsen from Roxtec. He will be presenting their sustainability journey and how they kicked that off. And kindly welcome Pernille Wichmann from LeMiuMula, who will also share their best practices. Next page, please. Steen, our CEO, says it very well. It is our responsibility to ensure the green transition. Unfortunately, Steen could not be here today with us, so I'll share a video with him instead.
At Semco Maritime, we want to play an important part in the green transition, and we're committed to making a positive difference for people and planet. With this promise in mind, we are building on existing initiatives, and we have launched our new sustainability strategy. We have set ambitious goals within three important focus areas, namely decarbonization, safe and responsible business, and environmental protection. We are currently concentrating our focus on decarbonization of our activities. To succeed with this, we have built an ambitious roadmap. So we, latest by 2023, have decarbonized Scope 1 and 2, by 2030, Scope 3 within own control, and by latest 2050, Scope 3 outside our control. We are taking the first steps towards a more sustainable business, and we are looking forward to continue the journey together with our customers, suppliers, and partners.
Good. I hope the sound was okay, and you also got the main messages from Steen. Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas, and thank you for the introduction, Dina, just earlier. What I would like to just present in a short time is a bit about what we actually did around our sustainability strategy. But first, a short introduction of myself. I came to Semco Maritime about 2 years ago, heading off our sustainability area, as well as a few others, including HR and HSEQ, which is a very good combination in the sense of that we all have a very high focus at the moment, especially on the... Yeah, there's a question I can see from Frank, or a raised hand at least. Is that something?
No, we'll take questions.
We will take questions in the end. Okay.
Yeah, because you've got no video feed. We're just seeing a black screen.
You're seeing black screen. Okay.
Yeah, everyone is, yeah.
No, actually, a lot of us can see it. So I think those who see a black screen need to reconnect, log out and log in again.
Okay.
Okay, it seems to be quite a few then.
Okay. At least thank you for the clarification, and we will try to see. And due to the time, we will just try to move on, right? So first of all, also from my end, I'm really happy to see so many is actually joining in. It's really good. It's a very important topic for us to cover. We have been spending quite some time actually developing our sustainability strategy. There's a lot of people who are coming in.
Sorry, now you've gone mute.
Sorry, I'm back. I'm not actually touching anything, so I don't know how that happened. Anyways, what we started our sustainability journey during 2021 officially with the sustainability strategy, but our journey actually started way before that. Back in the 2007, we got to be a member of the UN Global Compact, and since then we have been working on various topics. And some of them we have actually consolidated into our new strategy, which I will give some high-level insights to in a moment. It's also important for us to say that our sustainability strategy is anchored within our top management, with Sten, also the CEO who just presented, at least for some of you, and it was approved by the board last year, mid of June, I think actually was the timing of that. So now we have been stretching a bit ourselves, working with the roadmap for the last 1.5 years. And what we will try to do today is to pick out on some of the most important topics that we have been covering. And then later on during the presentation, a few from of my team colleagues would go more into depth with some of the areas. See if I can change the screen. Can I do something, or is it? Oh, you did it, Irene, perfectly. Okay, so first of all, what has been the main imperative kind of for us to work with is, of course, that we have an intent also to help on the overall climate agenda. So making a positive impact on the planet and the people. We have chosen the direction of putting in 3 different pillars, where our most important pillars and is, of course, the decarbonization, and which we will also dive into a bit more today. Especially Jonathan from my team will try to explain a bit what is actually our roadmap looking at, both what we have done and also a bit ahead. I think what we actually see on the decarbonization, and one of the top reasons why we put it first is, of course, the focus is on getting to carbon neutrality. We have set not an ambitious target for some maybe, which is by 2050 that we aim for that. And the main reason for that is basically we haven't built our roadmap in detail for that. As we move along, we will try to get that narrowed down, and then we will also know when we can be a bit more ambitious on that one. In regards to scope 1 and 2, I will talk a bit more into detail how we have actually selected to work with that in just another minute. If we look on environmental protection, which is another pillar that we have chosen to focus in on 9, 12, and 14, I think it's very much about the safeguarding of the earth in general that we're talking to. So here we have an ambitious target actually to protect the environment that we're part of, but also the ones that our customers and suppliers are also joining in on.
Sorry, Thomas, to interrupt, is it only me who only see a black screen with DB on it? Because I cannot see the presentation.
No, I see the presentation.
I see a presentation.
Okay. So it seems like more are seeing this presentation. Can you, the one who didn't, can you maybe log out and log in again? And then I can see Irene is doing something. Meanwhile, I'll just try to make sure I don't lose too much time. So I'll talk into the safe and responsible business, which is basically our third pillar of our sustainability strategy. And in overall, it's about also connecting that to one of our values, that safety is part of our DNA. And here we, of course, also look into the perfect, it seems to work again. Then we are also looking into another very important topic of which is about the DEI, gender inclusiveness, diversity, and equality. And I will try to jump into the next slide. Irene, if you can help me there. Perfect. Good. So basically, in overall, our roadmap, it looks like this. And what we have tried to do is very much to kind of carve a bit into the big outlook for the scope 3 by actually adding our own ambition for the 2030 ambitions that we have. And here we are mainly looking into what we can do within our own organization. So if I take you from 21 to 2023, what we have done is here we have both set process targets and also targets on where we want to be on the CO2 area within our own scope. Amongst others, we have been able to electrify quite a few of our company cars, but we also looked into how we can use more green electricity within our different locations. We're also looking into right now the best way of the things we're not able to mitigate, how we can offset that in the best possible way. And also Jonathan will talk into that a bit later. Then our focus will be from next year on very much on how do we expand that scope, and also you who are on the call, you are already a part of that discussions as we have been reaching out to our suppliers to understand where are they on their maturity journey. From next year, we will also be focusing a bit more on actually getting more quality into our data, and also try to gather that and work with that in a more, let's say, automated way together with our supply chain and mainly by procurement, which Richard will also talk a bit more into later. Part 3, or the phase 3, which is going from, in this picture at least, from 2030 to 2050, and I'm pretty sure it will be a bit more of a dynamic picture. We will start to work on the full value chain. And we have already a strong roadmap where we have been supported by Implement to look into where are the different pockets here we can aim for. So going into the last slide, I will present, Irene, hopefully. I'll give you a few things that we are looking into at the moment. So one of the things is, of course, that we are trying together with our innovation area also to look into where can we invest to see green offerings coming out. Here it's a very much a joint effort with the business together with our innovation area. Where is it that we can see that we have opportunity where we can create some value and actually also capture that if we look into the green growth. I think more of you would also have seen that the Power to X energy storage is something that is very much on the agenda, especially in the area around Esbjerg. We are seeing that we are becoming the center of attention, and here we are also participating in that equally, and that goes across all our divisions. We already talked about, let's say, investing in the green growth, but we also do a lot of other things within our innovation area. And I think what we have been able to bring forward to the market is corrosion detection system, which is quite efficient and also helps us and our clients on that agenda, as well as our ballast water treatment and remote FAT. I think those are good examples, and we are keeping on investing into those areas and trying to look where can we see more that could help not only like efficiency, cost drivers, but also on the sustainability agenda. And lastly, I want to also talk into the Green Sand Consortium, where we are going into a partnership with quite a few others and looking into the opportunities there. I'll be happy to answer questions at the end, but otherwise I will leave it to the next speaker.
At Semco Maritime, we are targeting carbon neutrality. To get there, we know that we need to change our mindset and challenge business as usual. We challenge ourselves by asking new types of questions. Where can we use recycled materials? How do we increase local sourcing? Do we need to travel, or can we meet online? To succeed, we need our people, our suppliers, our customers and business partners to ask these type of questions. We need to be innovative, creative, open-minded and curious. We cannot change overnight, but one step at a time we'll make the transition and create a greener future together.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Richard Bowen. I'm the Director of Supply Chain here at Semco Maritime. And I wanted to talk just briefly about our expectations and goals for the next several years. Like many companies, of course, we are focused on our long-term ambitions, which for 2030 include a fully sustainable supply chain with 100% of our material inputs that are renewable, recyclable, or reusable. That's an ambitious goal, but we're confident that we can achieve it with the help of our supply chain. Our immediate goals for this next year are, of course, to gather the input from you and your peers in our supply chain on your Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And this is because we are trying to move from what is today a very intuitive approach to reduction of emissions, where we simply make some assumptions based on experience about where our emissions are coming from. For example, travel, transportation, and how we handle our waste, to a more data-based approach where we actually try to identify based on actual data coming from the supply chain of where we should target our efforts to where we get the best return and reduction in those emissions. And that's why it is very, very important that if you have not already begun doing so or have plans to do so, you need to take action. The first step to reducing your emissions and ours are, of course, to know what they are and where they're coming from. So if you haven't begun measuring your carbon footprints and your emissions, please, I encourage you, we do here at Semco Maritime, encourage you to get started today. There are a lot of fantastic tools in the market. We're very happy to help you with those, but to understand where your emissions are coming from your own supply chains, scope 1 and scope 2, as well as scope 3. And this will be a requirement for continuing business with Semco Maritime by the end of 2023. That doesn't mean you have to begin reporting immediately in 23, but by the end of the following year, we need to have a system in place where you are able to report to us, whether through some bespoke reports, whether it's through your invoicing or some other means, what your scope 1 and scope 2 emissions are. And that, of course, will allow us to take that more data-based approach around decision-making about where we should target our efforts to reduce our own emissions through the supply chain. So the other requirement that we're asking you today is to start informing us of your own sustainability goals, initiatives, and the progress that you're making on a regular basis. We, of course, at Semco Maritime issue a sustainability report each year. Previously, that was a report on progress, but this again is something we would like to see our supply chain partners adopt. Those of you who don't already do that, adopt it so that by the end of next year. Again, this will allow us to help work together to identify those areas that can provide us with the best return on our efforts to reduce overall emissions. Yes, we'd also like to invite you to propose engaging with us on common initiatives to reduce energy consumption, waste, and emissions. We already have a number of initiatives ongoing with suppliers today, and we welcome all such initiatives. So please do reach out through one of those contacts that you have and make a proposal, and then let us have a meaningful discussion about that. Yes, anyway, I'd like to thank you and pass you on to the next person. Jonathan, thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everyone. We'll just adapt to my video here. Yeah, thank you very much for this nice introduction. Can we just skip to the next slide, please? Yeah, so we heard and spoke about the scope 1, 2, 3 emissions and the greenhouse gas protocol so far. And I guess many of you have heard about this framework before, but just to make everything clear, I will just introduce you briefly what is the difference in accounting scope 1, 2, and 3. So for scope 1 emissions, we have the physical limits within the company and also the emissions caused by activities that are owned by the company. And one example would be company vehicles. And yeah, so scope 2, we account for indirect emissions that are associated to energy purchases. This could be steam, this could be purchased electricity or heat. And then if we have a look at our scope 3 emissions, this is pretty much the rest, so to say, and the greenhouse gas protocol divides scope 3 emissions into 15 categories. And to make it a bit more clear, we can divide them into upstream activities and downstream activities. One example for upstream activities is the main reason why we have this very nice webinar with you today. It's the emissions caused by purchased products from the supply chain. And on the other hand, if we look at downstream activities, one example would be emissions caused by sold products in the end-of-life treatment. Okay, now we need to jump to the first slide we saw. In Semco Maritime, as you just heard, we started our journey of carbon accounting in the year of 2021. It all started with a materiality analysis, so to say, and it clearly showed us that the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, also next to the topic of health and safety, has the highest importance for our stakeholders and also has the highest impact on our business. But before even being able to report and also work on specific reduction activities, we first had to do some groundwork, and one of the major topics of this groundwork was deciding on getting an external consultancy. We heard the name before, it was Implement, to get them on board and support us complying to the greenhouse gas framework. One of the first steps was that we had a look at our organizational structure, at our locations, divisions, products, and projects, and set organizational boundaries where we see the responsibility areas where we are needs to account for greenhouse gas emissions and also define what scope category we have and which scope 1, 2, and 3 applies to. With this setting, with this boundary, we were able to gather the data from colleagues and sort it and also prepare it for the next very important step, the emission calculation and choosing emission factors. So one example would be the emissions caused by electricity purchases on our location in Norway. In that case, we chose a location-based approach where we looked into the electricity mix in that area and then chose the right emission factor for that. By gathering those data points from the organization, we also realized that we have some blind spots in the data or lack of data. And we realized it especially in scope 3 emissions. So in the year 2021, we were not able to report on scope 3 emissions and only focused in the reporting of scope 1 and 2 emissions. But this year we have decided on reducing those blind spots by implementing a new software. And this software solution is, just to get you a brief introduction, it's spend-based, or it's using spent data. So the amount from the ERP systems in currency and combines it with an external emission database, which enables us to come up with our carbon footprint in scope 3. So we hope that we will understand our scope 3 emissions a bit better in the future and that we are able to report on scope 3 emissions soon. Right. Perfect. Please one more slide. Now that you are a bit aware where we are in the roadmap of our greenhouse gas accounting, I wanted to just highlight some areas where we found challenges in our journey, and also would like to give some perspective what solutions we found, and also maybe have a dialogue in the end if you may have experienced similar things in your journey or if you find those insights helpful. So at the beginning of the topic of the greenhouse gas framework, it was pretty much unknown to us. We had a huge lack of knowledge how to comply to the greenhouse gas protocol standards. It's quite complicated. It's you may know it's a lot of very long documents and regulations you need to know. So having a consultancy at hand, and getting the knowledge to the organization really helped accelerating the process, and also give the opportunity to have a project time frame with an end date where you could actually say, yes, now we are able to have the organizational boundaries, which brings me to the next topic, actually coming up with a setting that fits to the organization, the organizational boundaries. It's quite complicated if you look at our company structure, which is quite complex. And in this case, the consultancy also helped to define where do we have responsibility according to greenhouse gas emissions and how to group them into the scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and also preventing the issue of double counting at the end. And the next topic is one of the most recent ones, and also the one where we are still challenged on a daily basis. It's the topic of the data collection. And this topic is just about time. It takes a lot of time to get the data from our locations, and by having complex structures and diverse ERP systems and other software where we need to extract data from, it also increases the amount of people who are involved and are the data owners, and actually need to be contacted at the end to extract data from them. So our solution, so to say, was that we had dedicated people in place who were just there to get the data in place, and also by implementing this reporting software, which connects to existing ERP software and also reduces the manual work, so to say, extracting data from our software. Just reduces the overall time and the complexity. Sometimes data is not detailed enough to be fully accurate about emission calculations. In that case, we work with an assumption tracker. So if we have a case where we miss some data, or we have to come up with some assumptions, we always went with the, so to say, worst case scenario, so the one with the higher emissions, and then we tracked those assumptions in one spreadsheet, and this is just to work on improvement of data over time after some reporting years. Last section I would like to highlight is the overall complexity of emission factors. It's quite tricky to find the best suited emission factor for your activity. Mostly it's very technical, and the persons need to be educated and know the organization very well. In that case, it's very helpful to have a extensive database which is covering the greenhouse gas protocol categories, and also gives some explanations. One of the examples of those extensive databases are coming from the IPCC, for example. And another topic that really accelerates the process of having complex emission factors is, of course, having knowledge externally by asking a consultant. Okay, now I'm jumping to the next slide. I'm just give you a very brief introduction to what you see here. It's more or less that in our understanding of the accounting part of greenhouse gas emissions, it is fitted into a loop between reporting and reduction activities. So what we would like to highlight here is that we see the accounting part as a reoccurring thing. It's something you have to do annually. You can improve in data, you can work on your data as well. It's not a one-time fixed job. Yeah, thank you very much so far. I'm very happy to give the words to Leo Konradsen from Roxtec. I'm just checking if everything's working fine. Yeah, we see the slides. Perfect.
Leo, if you can't swap the slides, just say yes, and then we will swap it from our side.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if I get the reins here so I can move the slides. Does it work when I hit now? Pop. There we go. It works. Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. And very shortly, my name is Leo Conderson. Then I work for a company called Roxtec. Roxtec is a company working with protecting life and assets from hazards like fire, water, gas, dust, explosion, etc. In areas like walls, floors, decks, bulkheads, and cabinets, etc. I want to go through very briefly a little bit about our journey, and then I'll be available in the end for any questions that might arise, and I hopefully can answer. I think, Thomas, you mentioned this early, and something that we've done at Roxtec as well is to ground the sustainability work in the top management. So we actually created an ESG organization, which is the same as sustainability, environmental, social, and governance part. And we use ESG internally when we communicate, and we use sustainability when communicate externally. And the ESG organization within Roxtec is reporting directly to the management team once every quarter on the progress. And it's life is so much easier, right, when you have the top management's blessing, so to speak, and things happen much faster. So if I can recommend something, speak to top management. If you're not on this call, make sure they are on board on this. For UN's goal on the environmental side, we have chosen to work with sustainable goals number 12 and 13, responsible consumption and production, and climate action. So we ground our focus and our base on the UN goal, which is the most known in the world, of course. So we don't make up our own goals here as perspective. Now, Richard mentioned measure, and I was responsible for getting Roxtec CO2 footprint measured in a project team started October last year. And our deliverables were, as you can see, scope 1, 2, and 3, actually, for according to GHG, and also looking into a system. And as Jonathan mentioned, it's not that easy or straightforward first time you do it. So in the project team, we decided to bring in a consultant. And we brought in the Swedish Environmental Institute, which are full of researchers and very clever people who helped us get started. Because we were in the project team umming and ahhing about how to do this in the best way possible. And we decided to bring in these professionals, which was a great idea, I must say. And something that hasn't been mentioned that much, but internal communication about what we are doing is very important to get the organization on board. Roxtec has 27 subsidiaries, and we need everybody on those teams and countries need to be aware of what we're doing, as they are part of the data reporting for CO2, but also part of the solution, of course, of lowering our CO2 emissions. So we do a lot of internal communication, and it's very important. It also proves that we're doing something, and it's a positive effect. So in order to get our CO2 measures in place, the description for the product looks like this. So as Jonathan mentioned, how is the organization looking? How are we going to get this information in? How do we calculate and report this? And how do we analyze this and interpret the results? And how do we move forward? So our global CO2 emission looks like this. Scope 1 is very small. Scope 2 is also very small. While Scope 3 from mainly is the raw material what we use, which is steel and rubber for our cable and pipe sealing solutions. And if, as I think both Thomas and Richard mentioned, if we don't know our baseline or where we are, if we don't have the data, how can we know what to do or what to focus on? It's impossible. So we need to have these numbers. Jonathan, you mentioned this is also a yearly process. Now, first year we did it through our consultants and we used an Excel file. It was a good start actually, instead of jumping straight into what we're doing today. Actually, today was the first global introduction to the digital platform of what we're going to use something called Position Green, where our subsidiaries, all 27 of them, or 28 actually, puts in their data, and that calculates the CO2 emissions, and we also get KPIs and look for improvements there. Very exciting about this new much smoother way of reporting this. Other thoughts I want to share with you is we did a local sustainability initiatives for 2022, where all our subsidiaries had a chance to start 3 local initiatives. Just start them, don't ask us for permission. And we wanted to get involvement and commitment in the subsidiaries towards sustainability. And we had a big question how to take care of end of life for our products. And I'm very happy to say that we are discussing with Semco Maritime on how to recycle our Roxtec rubber material going forward. And I want to finish off with this one, which is this, I've heard from so many, is don't try to do too many things at once, but just make sure you get started with one. Just get started and then build from there. Okay, that was all from me. Thank you so much for listening, and I will hand over the word to Pernilla, I think.
Yes, thank you very much, Leo. And Dina, I think I asked for control. Let's see if it works.
Granting access.
Thank you. I think the slide needs to change color a little bit in order to reflect LeMiuMula. I'm still waiting for your approval.
Can you request control?
I did.
You did. Can you try again?
Absolutely. It says you denied it. Let's see if we have it now. I think we do.
Seems like it changed.
Yes, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Semco Maritime, for inviting us to speak at this event. My name is Pernille Wigman. I'm heading up the industry division at LeMiuMula. LeMiuMula is Denmark's largest technical and steel wholesaler. We are based in Denmark, but we are also delivering goods and services to 64 countries outside of the Danish borders. We have a long-time working relationship with Semco, and this is also why we're here today. Now, being a technical wholesaler means that we're actually not a supplier ourselves as such. We are not producing stuff. That means that we are based pretty much in the middle between the end user and also the producer of the goods. And that puts us in a special position, and we have to share that responsibility of the entire value chain. And we have certain ways to do so, which I'll explain to you about. When we talk about our scope 1, 2, and 3, it's very much the internal house in scope 1. That's 53% of our emission. 17% of our emissions is very much about heat consumption. It's about electricity consumption. And then there is the indirect emission of our scope 3, which is 30%. Very much of that, as you can see in the picture, is related to outbound technical transport, which I'm responsible for in my part of the business. Of course, as I said itself, we are running a lot of kilometers on the high roads in order to get those goods delivered to our customers. Now, when I talk about scope 1, 2, and 3 here, this is without the actual CO2 emission of each of the products that we are delivering. If we took that into account, that would be 99% of our emission. But these are the ones that we could do something about. And we are very much focusing not just on our own emission, we call it internal housekeeping in order to be environmental friendly, but it's very important for us to be a strategic partner to our customers. When we are a strategic partner to our customers, it's also keen for us in order to help them reduce their CO2 footprint. So what we do and the strategic focus areas that we've been working on for the past quite many years now is related to energy consumption, waste reduction, and then of course CO2 emission. We have submitted a commitment letter to obtain the Science-Based Target initiatives, and we are also working with the UN Development Goals 12 and 8, which you heard about earlier. Now, when I talk about 4 areas of priority, it's very much related to CO2 reduced delivery. It's about increased recycling and production of packaging. I'm going to go more into details of both of those. And then those that I'm not going to go so much into is about environmental friendly products. But it is keen for us, and we work with suppliers, many of you are on the call as well, that we are actually able to be able to support customers like Semco Maritime with the most environmental friendly products, between others. And then we are sustainability knowledge partner to our customers as well, meaning that we are providing customers and suppliers with detailed education related to how to make environmental management, how do you make CSR reports, and how do you reduce your CO2 footprint internal in your company, for instance, by adding a more sustainable energy upgrades to your business as such. But I'm going to go more into CO2 reduced delivery, as it's a huge part of what we do. So what we decided to do is actually several years ago, we figured out that, well, we are having a large footprint on the highways. So what we do was we would make into a strategic partnership with DSV and then provide H300 biodiesel on the technical goods being delivered around the globe. We also try to make sure that our customers have gathered their orders with us in order to produce fewer and fixed days of delivery, especially within our steel business, so that we are not just driving out to our customers every day, but we actually gather them to fewer days a week, saving kilometers and of course polluting less with the fuel. And then we also make sure that express deliveries are being made by electrical vehicles, either being electrical cars, but also electrical bikes. And those goes for our 23 stores internally in Denmark. Now, to go a little bit more into detail with the CO2 reduced delivery. Let's see if I can. I think I lost control. There we go. When it goes into the CO2 delivery, what I mentioned was that we have filled up in a partnership with DSV the trucks that they're driving for us with HVO100 biodiesel. That is coming from Kuwait and is fuel that is not emitting CO2. So it does not contain the harmful palm oil. It's actually made by waste, organic waste, and could also be waste from slaughteries and so on around Europe. And we are reducing our CO2 footprint on our transportation with 90%. It's actually quite a lot when it comes to see that DSV is driving more than 7 million kilometers for LeMiuMula a year, and that equals 180 times around the globe. But just in order to do so, we have reduced our CO2 consumption by more than 4,000 tons annually. And after that, that's going up the more we grow our business. What we decided to do, which I mentioned before, is this is not just for our own sake. What is important for us is that our customers can benefit from this. So we have made what we call a CO2 calculator. And for instance, for customers like Semco, we would say, before we roll with the very polluted B7 diesel, which we have, how many drops do we have at your site every year? How many kilometers do we drive with goods to you? And then we calculated what it would be before we added the HVO100 biodiesel and then afterwards. And then we can show that CO2 saving, and that actually goes straight into the CSR reports being made by our customers. And the reason why we can do so is that it's documented and it's verified by a third party called Nestlé. So all of our customers, including ourselves, can, with peace of mind, it's not greenwashing, add that to the CSR report. And that has been some of the requests, for instance, by Semco Maritime, and that is what we are providing. So what it means is that we have actually managed within 1 year to reduce our CO2 emission by 81%. I mentioned that briefly before, also when it comes to the local express deliveries, which DSV is not doing for us, we have a partnership with GLS, and that goes from whatever we are delivering from our local stores. And that we have in 2021, 24% of all our express deliveries were made with these green vehicles. And that's actually tripling in 1 year. So we're doing even more to go to 100% in this account. And that, of course, is a work in progress. That was a little bit about our CO2 footprint in terms of emission and saving that. Then it's very important, being a technical wholesaler, that we are making sure to reduce waste and also increase recycling. Many of our initiatives are including reducing waste and recycling up to 76% over the last few years, but also making sure that all the car boxes being made, of course, there is some cardboard packaging with us, and that has been FSC completely certified and is fully biodegradable. So when in our steel business, we have actually had the plate packaging, we have now reduced that to recycling material of 65%. So this means a lot on our overall CO2, and it also means that even though you are receiving a lot of packages and a lot of goods, it's actually not something that is really polluting, it's something that is environmental friendly. It's not that car boxes take up a lot of our CO2 footprint, but it's very visible to our customers, and that's why it's important for us to reduce that. And that is ongoing initiatives with us. Finally, it's also about what are we consuming. Instead of trying to correct the wrongdoings we're doing on the environment, we are very much focused about producing less and also emitting less CO2. And we have done so without actually reducing efficiency in our customers' production. And we're doing that what we call fully integrated warehouse management services or vendor management solutions. It's very much about having responsible consumption of the goods being used at production sites, in MRO, in our customer site. And we're doing that with our smart layer. We call it smart inventory in English. And it's responsible solution. It could be vending machines. It can be a warehouse management service where we make sure that we are reducing dead and excess stock, and that we are also making sure that our customers are only using what is absolutely necessary. So we use a lot of data to do so. And based on that data, we provide our customers with insights saying, you should not have excess stock. You should not have stock that you don't need to use. And we actually manage for customers using our smart inventory solution to reduce their consumption with up to 30%. It also gives fewer deliveries, as is our teams that is only filling up the stock when absolutely needed, and then again, that is saving emissions. And of course, we make tailored solutions with each of our customers. One of them being Semco Maritime, which we have a great collaboration with at the Linné site in Denmark as well. So this is just a few ideas about what can happen, what can also benefit you guys. And this is one way of starting small, go by one, and then helping our customers succeed. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Pernille. And thank you very much, Leo. It's a pleasure having you here, sharing your ideas and thoughts and actions so far. I think there are a few takeaways that I'll just briefly summarize before we go to the question and answers session. Takeaway that I feel is very important is that top management should be involved. And it's very important that we implement the sustainability culture within the entire organization. We've done it as well in Semco Maritime and actually invited all our employees for workshops regarding sustainability to get all the input we can. And we have ongoing initiatives related to that as we go along. So please get started, start to measure, do what Jonathan said, find someone who can support you during the first step and then continue from there. Get the help you need, ask for support, team up with partners. As you see, Semco Maritime teaming up with both Roxtec and with LeMiuMula on different initiatives. And I really like the fact that both Roxtec and LeMiuMula are proactive. They reach out to us to tell us about all their great ideas and how we together can be more sustainable. And last but not least, enjoy the journey, because it is a journey and we are all part of it. So thanks a lot for listening, and we're ready for questions or anything. So please, if you write your questions in the text, we can take it from here. You are also welcome to speak up if that's easier. No questions?
Dina, maybe from myself, Gabor from BAG. Can we get the slides that has been presented?
Yes, it will be delivered afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, Gabor. Any questions, thoughts? No? Then thanks a lot for joining us on today's webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.